Okay, Graceon, you were saying something about, like we say, the microphone don't lie, and because we're radio people, I mean, we're not. My technique now is I usually, because I'm far away, I usually have two phones, and I have somebody on the telephone, and the camera's always on me.
Okay.
So the person doesn't have to,
expose themselves.
Exactly.
They get a certain amount of anonymity.
Thank you. But you were saying something else. This whole chariot thing that you were saying.
Yeah. I've come to learn that I agree with you. The voice don't lie. It doesn't lie at all, and you can't fake it. And when you understand that, you realize that when a person is speaking, the tones in their voice are essentially like a chariot, like a kind of conduit, like a kind of, how do you describe this?
A vector, not a vector, what do you call it?
It's like not quite a wave, but it's kind of like a wave that you can travel through time on it. And you can travel through the person's experience to the said and the unsaid.
Because the unsaid is usually bigger than the said, and the
Exactly.
unsaid also has the person's lineage, which means
It's right in there.
When I say the person's lineage, it means the lineage of their peoples, if you will.
Yes, and the tones in the voice is not just their tones. It's the tones of the entire community that's represented in it. And it's not limited by time or space.
But I think, I don't know if I can isolate this thing, but, well, let me go back. The thing that we also talked about is this whole thing, and I have another notion on this, but you was talking about Africa and the train and the rail system. It needs to be railed up. But your idea, basically, I'm going to tell you this. I believe in engineering and design. If I say there's three disciplines, the discipline I like most is anthropology, and then I've grown since I've been in Africa so long. I've really got the appreciation in Cape Town design. But then, of course, I know engineering. But if you have engineering, but you can't put the design out there, your engineering's got going absolutely nowhere. If it don't look good, ain't nobody jumping on it. You know what I mean? Or it's not convenient, or whatever. You know what I mean? But what was you saying about this African rail?
What I have come to appreciate is that because of the size of Africa, it has a scale and proportion that, how do you say this? I want to say this because it's a lot to say, but I'm trying to say it in a small package.
If they want to put high-speed rail, they have the land and whatever have you to do it.
But it's not just that. Africa...
It's open space, I guess.
Yeah, Africa is so big that you can only carry a certain amount of food in your stomach for a certain interval of time. And water. And so Africa is so big that for a very long time, people who lived in Africa didn't have a full appreciation of the size and scale of Africa.
They were the tree in the forest.
So what happens is that it had the effect of sequestering groups of people within the limitations of their ability to walk so many miles in a day, so many miles because of the food they carried, etc., etc. So very few Africans understood how big their house was. And because of that, when you look at Japan or England, not too far in terms of size, but in a few decades, they were able to get a sense of the size and proportion of where they lived. And so they got bored with the place they lived in because they could see its limits, and they started to travel out. But Africa is so big that it can hold all your bright ideas and exhaust your ability to move around. So you get forced into... So I say one of the reasons why Africa didn't develop is a bunch of other reasons, but this one I want to allude to is that the place overwhelmed of physical capabilities, the size of the place. And so our appreciation and exchange with one another didn't have enough time to grow out because other people came in and interrupted us and diverted us.
Now,
they would come in on the coast and get our attention on the coast, and we'd look out across the water and forget our neighbors all around the rest of Africa.
But to get to the point that you got to before, which is then they developed a rail system according to what they knew about rail in their little dominions, right?
And
but so if Africa wants rail system now, they're going to go to the same idiots that did the job to them to whatever. There's a great story. It's a story. I think it's Kenya. Well, and I know in South Africa, they wanted new train cars, and of course there was an idiot in charge of getting the train cars, and he didn't even look at the gauge of the tracks, so the new train cars couldn't fit on the tracks. Something is basically that's the easy one. But the other one is China came to Kenya and said, we're going to modernize your stuff, and they basically gave them discarded train cars from China as their new things. So we know those tricks, but you go to your solution. Just tell me what solution. So you have to ignore those guys and go to it.
So what happens is that when you realize the daunting effect that the size of Africa has on the inhabitants of Africa, or has had on the inhabitants of Africa, the people who live there, because they couldn't see how big it was. And people from outside are the ones that got a better view of it.
I got you.
But here's what happens. Now that we have satellite photos, we could look at Google and see our continent. And then we can do the scale thing and see how big it is and compare it to other nations.
And before we had Google Satellite, only the spy people, only governments could do that. But now everybody can do that.
Everybody can do that. So
including designers and engineers.
Yes.
Okay.
So now that we have an understanding of how many miles an hour you can go safely and all that, and you look at the size of Africa and how many miles it is long and how many miles it is north, south, east, west, and you realize how much time it's going to take, then you realize that you got to maximize your transportation efficiency. And the only way you can do that is by realizing that you can't make the same gauge rail that America, Europe, and Russia has. So you have to make wider train tracks. So this way you can carry heavier loads.
But also it stabilizes a lot better. It's like a car with a wheelbase.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And when you have a wider track, you can travel faster because it's more stable. So now when you understand this, you can't take standard rail because standard rail is not going to do Africa any good.
And even when Japan will have this so-called speed rail,
Shinkansen or whatever they call it.
The speed rails or the high speed, that's no good either. Well, it can be good, but it still has to have a wider track.
A wider track. See, so the underlying technology can be utilized, but the gauge has to be changed. And not only that, when you look at the technology that exists, and you realize that, back in the early days of technology up to the current period in time, you realize how technology has changed. So when you look at it, it's like Africa can come up with ideas and solutions that probably other people haven't even thought of.
That's right.
Okay. The African brain is an awesome brain.
I got you. Listen, so you saw the problem of traveling
intracontinental.
Intracontinental. Okay, you solved that problem. Let me give you another thing, because remember I talked before about energy and sources, sun or whatever have you.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's out of South Africa. He's what's called the Bitcoin community. I think he runs a thing called Sun Exchange, and his idea for the future. If people don't understand this, before when the blimps, the dirigibles came about, what they wanted, what was supposed to happen was you had boat travel.
Yes.
What they basically was boats in the air.
Yeah. Okay.
So you didn't need blah 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 blah.
Yes.
Well, his idea is that because the thing has changed now, you don't have the helium that's going to blow up, or whatever. You have some ways to do it. You have sun, whatever have you.
Yeah.
You have these basically big dirigibles, whatever it is, that are basically you can go on a dirigible around the world. You can grow your food in there. You can sustain yourself. You don't have to get no ports, whatever. Everything that you need could be on these dirigibles that basically don't have any tracks. They don't have to worry about the sea or whatever have you. They don't have to worry about. So that's another solution, worldwide solution. But what happens, of course, is the people now that profit from these things, ship lines or whatever it is, that's been there for centuries or whatever it is, they're not going to give up their so-called legacy.
No,
you know what I mean? For that. So the point is, again, we go back to how do you sell people? How do you explain there's another narrative? You got to show them the other narrative, or at least fantasize the other narrative. The reason why we get cell phones now is because of Star Trek. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. You know.
Somebody's imagination said, "Can we do that?"
That's right.
And then you start.
And then they made a narrative, but how did they make it popular? Forget Star Trek. Let's go back for older people, older than us. Go back to the two-way rich watch with Dick Tracy.
Yeah, that was.
So and that maybe that begat Star Trek, which begat a whole industry. You know, 30 years later, how many years later? That is the actual point.
Yeah.
You know, but our biggest problem is this. Okay, I have to sort of end it here.
I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a challenge.
A challenge.
I've never seen a problem in my life.
I got you.
I've seen challenges, objectives, etc.
My bad. I misspoke. Our task, our passion, our task is what we just said. Now, what you described before is the thing. They have the military industrial complex.
Yes.
That was back then. That was back in the 50s. It has changed now because really what it is what I call the congressional, industrial, military, academia complex.
Yes. Academics gets hidden. And what we don't realize is that we always talk about the military and whatnot, but there's a financial warfare division that nobody talks about.
And we're not going to talk about either. Okay. All I'm trying to say is if we just stay with that, because what's supposed to happen is academia, study, research. That's supposed to be institutions they're supposed to inform the military as well as the Congress. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I just mean any political thing. But when they inform them, those industries, those be it the politicians or the military, they just edit. And to their purposes, so you don't get the other stuff. And of course, because the so-called, what do you call the fourth, whatever the hell we are, the media, they're idiots, you know what I mean?
The news actors.
Yeah, they all come from the same thing. Yeah, I love the South African term, they say, or English term, they're presenters.
Yes.
They're presenters, present whoever's talking in their ear. And right now, something like, say, CNN, these people like that, all the people are ex-CIA and all the rest of that stuff, you know what I mean? I mean, even and if you just do what we call relationships, like say what's the fair haired boy on CNN? His mother was found Furstenberg of one of those really rich people. What's I'm talking about with the white hair?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
He just adopted some sort of son or something like that. You know what I mean? But his internship, it doesn't matter. His internship was with the CIA. Now, you might say, no, he's not an agent, but his internship, what that means that in his formative years, he made friends. He has friends that's now big people in the CIA.
So he's a conduit.
Thank you.
He's an effective conduit.
Yeah.
Because he's a known face. He's probably liked, trusted, and so you can sell anything.
That's right, and he's liked and has relationship with the people that he did his internship with.
Yes.
These things are everything's about relationship. Even Hollywood's about relationships.
It's all about relationships. That's
everything's about it's who you know and who you make friends with. You know what I mean? You know how we are. Everybody thinks that you're definitely crazy, right?
Well, I'm
not using the word. I'm just saying.
But one of the things I say about sanity and insanity, it is very loosely defined for a reason. Because if you really look at anybody a little bit too closely, you'll realize that hardly any of us are sane.
Exactly. We all damaged. That's what. But people think that I'm off my rocker.
Well, I know that. That's why I hang out with you.
Plus, here's the other trick. We don't have any money. So we don't, we're not, we don't, we can sustain ourselves, but we don't have any money like they got money to spend on cars and bling and all the rest of that stuff. So therefore we have no cachet in this world that makes these kind of decisions and do the editing out, right? Yeah. So the point really is the only way we can affect this is we have to make something popular.
Yes, but
the only way to make it popular, you got to make your comics, you got to make your songs, you got to make your films, you got to make your, or audio, whatever you got to make.
You can be smart, because you see, they have the money, which that gets ensconced in credits, in structures called banks, and then what we have as the ordinary person, we have an undying loyalty to money.
Oh yeah.
And as a result of our commitment to money, we then afford the people who have money control. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's the whole game. But what we don't realize is that we have the power. But it's our commitment to money, which they say they have. And money is very fungible. You can play with the numbers and you guy lose all his money in an instant.
Yeah.
But somehow they always never seem to lose their money. But we are always committed to money, and so therefore they always have control. And what I would like to see happen is, when we understand what money is, if African leaders can look inward and realize that Africa's wealth is a given,
but the only way,
and given that Africa's wealth is a given, then what they could do is, if they understood what money was, is to issue credits against the given wealth and say, now look here, we will provide you with 3 squares and you build this railroad.
That's too much.
Wait a second.
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm just not with that, man.
Hold on.
I don't know what that means. That's all I know.
Okay. Your basic needs will be met, and you'll be able to work and function fully with no liabilities on your physical performance and your health.
Okay,
But wait a second. Hold on. And we're going to build a railroad, and the railroad has credits in it. Okay, like how you have the American government issues what they call them, bonds. Then you get a certain amount of bonds for working on the railroad, and when the railroad is done, you have an interest or a stake in it.
But your credit system is still their system.
No. What I'm saying is,
I want to destroy their system.
Wait a second. What I'm saying is that this is not an international financial structure. This is a structure that is designed and built inside of Africa. Its value rests upon Africa's people and the governing structures of Africa's commitment to the commitment.
That's the problem.
So in other words,
what Africa are you talking about? The governing structure of Africa that exists today is not. It's a pale shadow of the European powers. If you went back to the real, the way kings and queens usually rule, whatever they had. Look, when I used to. I taught with this. There's this group called There's a school called Umzumankle in Alice, and what it is. It's for special needs kids. Mm-hmm. And every time I came into class to do something, I immediately had them change this structure of the class. They had to go in circles because they all rows just like every class you see. Now, how they get those rows? They got it from the missionaries. They got it from whatever it is, and they didn't get it from their elders who sat in circles. So I mainly put it back to them. So that's my only thing. But I don't want to get it. That's just too complex for me. I just want to stay on this whole rail thing because I thought it was fascinating, and this whole transportation thing.
Yes.
But that to me is fascinating, and that's what you got to narrate. That's what you have to sell. Let me put it that way.
So what I'm saying is, the way you build it is to create your own bond system that has value only in Africa, among Africa.
Well, but people are still good. Trade is still going to be global. People want to trade. They're going to want your cocoa.
Hold on. That's right. You still do that trade, but what you do is, you understand, Africa's wealth is a given. So since Africa's wealth is a given, you come to an appreciation that we haven't dug it up out of the ground yet, or we haven't planted it yet, but we can know it's going to come. Okay? So since we know it's there, then we create a representation of it called our money, Africa bond, whatever, and you will be function within this railroad project, building it, and you will be afforded not so much cash money today, but you'll be afforded meals and your basic necessities will be met, but you will have this investment bond or whatever it is in the entire project.
Again, you're weeding me in this stuff that I really don't believe in, right?
Okay,
because even the free, I'm saying, right now, where I'm going back to Africa, I live in a village, right? Mm-hmm. And the people I work with these people because my whole thing is about community development. It doesn't matter. But right now, you know what they're doing? They're finally growing their own food. Now you say, wait a second, no, they're growing their own food. And that is so important. So I don't need you give me no credit or whatever to feed myself, whatever. I don't want to go through anybody else. I want to be. That's what crypto. That's what Bitcoin's about. But also you are your own sovereign. That's the point.
Okay, but see,
if I'm not my own sovereign, I don't want to hear it.
See, but you have to understand. When you realize how big Africa is, you understand. And that the scale of these projects of building rails across Africa. And one of the things I would like to see is that when we build rail, or even highways across Africa, that they are elevated above the ground.
Sure, yeah.
You know why? Because people are lazy. And they're going to go in and destroy the communities of animals.
One of the reasons why
we call animals.
Well, the other thing, you want to, if you make a whole forest where people come down and chop it down for their firewood. You know
yes, and not just the firewood. They're going and shoot the animals and cook them and eat them.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because this is how creatures like us are. Okay, and so given that situation, and now that we have cars and chainsaws and trucks, the environment in Africa could be given a bald head. Deforested, in other words, very quickly.
Okay, which here's another solution. Remember,
and we have done it already because if you look at Egypt, the Middle East, and whatnot, that is the result, in my opinion, of a lot of show and tell by boys, showing that I'm better than you, I have a better army than you, cutting down the trees to make all these weapons and whatnot.
Here, look,
boats.
One of the things I hate to dismiss because I don't want to make this long, but here. I tell people, I ask people all the time, why did they kill Gaddafi? And everybody's going to go, because he was doing it, he's going to make the money, so he's going to do whatever. I'm going like, look, what he did, what he was doing, he was going around Africa, not just speaking to the politicians of the country, he was speaking to the different chiefs. I'm not going about how the chiefs can be brought off to, not going to, he's speaking to the chiefs. But what he was also doing, Libya had the biggest aquifer that he was building. They was going to reforestate the desert. Now, I'm just trying to say, there are people, when you start getting these projects, African minds, to do that and not listening to those minds, then that's what's happening. And the AU has to change. All these people have to change. The African Union. I mean, the African Union for years had Palestine had a observer seat on the African Union, right? And then I read recently, right? All of a sudden, Israel wants an observer seat on the African Union. What is that about? No, we know what it's about. My point is that because politics can be bought and they can do that. They want to go to the UN. People say they want to go to the UN for reparations. Oh, please. It's a corrupt... No, that's not what you do.
In other words, you're still going to be dependent on them.
Yes.
It's like you're sucking on a breast.
Yeah.
And in other words, I don't want to indirectly sanction the sale and mass murder of my family. Because when you have your family sold into slavery, and then these nations get rich and develop based on our free labor, and then I come to them and I say, you got to give me money. What I'm doing is I'm indirectly sort of like coming to an understanding or an acceptance that, yeah, my family was sold, used up, etc., and I want something out of it. So in other words, I'm indirectly cashing in. And when you understand, when you realize a human being and the potential of a human being, you never know what a person can become.
Yeah, but
and so when you take them and you divert them into slavery and put them to do your mundane labor and mistreat them, you have no idea what gifts they could have brought to the earth.
But that's the point. You do have an idea. That's why you don't want them sitting next to your cousin, because you done boinked your cousin to make your newest child. You understand what I'm saying? They know this. People know this. The human potential is so amazing. It's unbelievable. So you have to squelch the human potential. I understand all that stuff.
The point I'm trying to say is that value of the human being is beyond money.
That's right.
But you can't pay me.
That's right.
For my family, you can't even. I can't get it in my head. There is no way in hell that the people of Africa can be paid for. You can't pay for them. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know how to say it. It's like, you can't pay for the family you stole from me.
That's right. You can't really pay for what you can give. My thing about paying or say the money part of reparations is really just to corrupt, to bankrupt their system. In other words, if you have to pay reparations, that means you can't make. In other words, if a missile costs $1 million, well, you can no longer make 1,000 missiles. Because part of that's got to go to they're going to give you that fiat money, so that's it's going to do them no good. Well, you're not really going back because they can make that fictional money. Yeah, but that's right. That's why my solution, my money thing, is a little different for reparations. But I don't want to get into money because two people. It's like, no, let me tell you my money thing for reparations right now because I think it's brilliant. But that's because I think that's the way I think. Anyway, I really want to stop here. I don't want to go too far with this. This going to be too long. And I do my channel. Nothing is monetized, so I do this for, as we say, archival purposes only. I'm not trying to, change people's minds or anything like that. And I think things will change. Oh, here we go. Here's my estimation. I estimate, and this is about American, or American black folks, or what they call American descendant chattel slave, whatever it is. It's 264 trillion. I just said trillion. Okay, 264 trillion is owed this group of people. Okay, this is the debt due. Out of that, 82 trillion should be paid in fiat money. Don't worry about that part. 82 million should be paid in cryptocurrency, and 82 million should be paid in metals and whatever, precious metals or whatever you want to call it, like that.
Real
so you have three streams.
Yeah.
One that can be the fiat. Yeah. But then you have the future stream, which would be that's why I say the cryptocurrency. I'm going to say specifically Bitcoin. And the third one is those raw materials. Now, this thing is even more complex for me because it's not the whole slavery thing. It's not just the United States. But remember, you got the Catholic Church. I mean, so they could be paying in gold and whatever, the crypto, not crypto, but they can be paid in the precious metals. Where you have England, where those diamonds, those precious jewels that the Queen has. Sorry, hey, you owe us. The insurance companies where they got to pay. Maybe they got to pay in crypto or in fiat, whatever. You have a whole groups of people that should be paying to this thing, and this I think will I don't say make a difference, but this will make them say, "Oh man, we got to do something about these guys, man. They're coming at us."
One of the ways I think they should be made to pay is that we should acquire deeds for a lot of these European properties, highly valued European properties all across the cities of Europe that represent the value that is owed. And we don't have to move them. They can stay there. And they pay us rent. We become the landlord for those properties because we our blood, sweat, and tears committed the construction of those cities, and so we should own those cities, and they pay rent.
Here's the thing. You just hit on something right before I left. Anyway, I wrote this piece, this little audio drama, this scenario a couple of years before Mugabe was dead. I wrote this piece about Mugabe, and what it is Mugabe, the African leaders, is sending the leaders who the Queen of England took all those minerals, those diamonds, whatever from, right? He goes and knocks on the door, and he says, "Hey, you owe us some stuff, whatever have you. But hey, don't worry about the art and stuff like that. You got a good system of making sure this stuff doesn't get stolen. We like your system. So you just owe us, you just rented it. You didn't own it. You know what I mean? You leased it. You know what I mean? And so you still have to pay us. But you're in charge. But you're in charge of making sure this stay safe. But And it's like a 3-page, 6
Yeah,
page.
I think that's a great thing.
I have to say it. I have to pick myself up. It's brilliant. When you read it, you understand. You go, oh yeah, because everybody wants. Oh, let's take the head. Let's take this OMAC head or whatever. The back over. No. Y'all been keeping it really good. No worries. Yeah. Just give us the. It doesn't have to be money, fiat money. Give us the whatever.
Exactly.
But I like your
the queen and your diamonds. You don't have to worry. All your properties
yeah.
that represent the amount of money that's owed, we will get the deeds for them, and the taxes and charges that come along with that will be paid to us Africans.
And the deeds will not be dictated by your illegal system that you've done. We're going to create a whole other way to make sure these deeds and and your lineage, whatever, is paid for.
And the borders and the boundary lines and all the rest of stuff. And we'll have that across all of the European nations that built Europe on Africa's.
Okay,
I'm a relative.
I see where we're going.
Okay,
we got to
so
stop.
We don't want no fiction money.
We done solved. Hey, look at that. I don't know how long it took, but we done solved that problem. We need to go on to another. Check you later, man.
All right.